Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. This is just a quick roundup of the Premier League football so far this weekend. Yesterday Spurs beat Leeds 3-0. Spurs have moved into third, 4 points behind us. Anybody who saw me show yesterday, as much as you've got to have ambition and you've got to look above yourselves and see how far you can climb up the table, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little eye on who's behind you and who could be your challengers who are coming up from behind. And Spurs, despite having a blip that they've had in some of the recent games or recent weeks, there's still only 4 points behind us after that game on the same games as us. So I wouldn't rule Spurs out of being. We were talking about us being in a title race when we were sort of 6 points behind with a game in hand, very similar position. Spurs are 4 points behind the leaders at the minute on the same games. So you certainly can't rule Spurs out. It's not, don't think for one moment that it's a two-horse race by any stretch of the imagination. Leeds, Spurs opponents. I'm interested in Bielsa's philosophy on football. They seem to play a very expansive game. I know the players all work hard, but they play a very attacking game. I've had a quick look at the table and noticed that Leeds have scored 30 goals so far this season, and only United and Liverpool, the top two, only United and Liverpool have scored more than Leeds have. But on the opposite side of the coin, they've conceded 33. Only West Bromwich Albion have conceded more. So only two teams have scored more and only one team has conceded more. There's actually been, if you were a neutral and you wanted to go watching football, there's actually been 63 goals in Leeds games so far this season. There's been quite a lot. United and Liverpool are next on that list if you add the goals there. There's been 57 goals in United's games and 57 in Liverpool's games. So Leeds are out on top by 6 there, 63 goals, but nobody else is anywhere near that. So there's a hell of a lot of goals being scored in the Leeds games. It's such an open approach that he's got. Whether his philosophy is based upon, if we go for it, we can win. If you think about it, if you play defensively and you aim to get draws to get yourself out of trouble, you try and stop conceding goals, try to stop the opposition from beating you, basically. It might take you 4 or 5 games. If you're lucky, it might take you 5, 6, maybe even more games to get 3 points. I mean, at the minute, Sheffield United have only got 2 points, for example. But if you do okay defensively, if you're a struggling team, it might take you 5 or 6 games to get 3 draws. If you can just go all out to win those games, you might win 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, and you're getting 3 points. You're getting your 3 points quicker. Whether that's part of his philosophy, obviously I don't know, but it'd be very interesting to keep an eye on Leeds and see how they go for the rest of the season. Crystal Palace beat Sheffield United 2-0. That's left Sheffield United on 2 points still after 17 games. I know it's still plenty of time to go, but to be honest, they need a miracle, really. I think Sheffield United, you always say you don't know, but I think they need a miracle, really, to turn that around. With that victory, Palace have gone up to 14th in the table. I spoke yesterday about nothing, and I've just said again, really, Spurs have moved up to 4 points behind us at the moment. As much as you've got to have ambition, you've got to be looking up, you really want to climb as high as you can up that table. I don't think there's anything wrong with having one little eye on who's behind you and who could be creeping up on you. So the same applies to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, although they've been watching the teams behind them, they've moved up to 14th with that win. But on 14, even though they're 14th, they've got 22 points. They're only 4 points behind Chelsea. Now, I'm not suggesting that Palace would normally have a realistic chance of finishing above Chelsea. But when we were looking up the table as United fans and going, we're 6 behind Liverpool or 7 behind Liverpool with a game in hand as it was only a few weeks ago, we were saying, are we in a title race? Crystal Palace, they probably won't be thinking, we've got a chance of finishing above Chelsea, but they are only 4 points outside the top 6. they might. It doesn't have to be Chelsea that they finish above, of course. They might well have an eye on a Europa League place. Probably can't happen for them, but like I've been saying all along, we're 16, 17 games in, and they're 4 points behind the top 6, even though they're in 14th place. City, Chelsea, Southampton, and West Ham are all on 26 points. So even though they might not overtake all of those teams, they might be able to overtake some of them. So. They're not doing bad at all there, Palace, even though they're in 14th. Brighton drew 3-3 with Wolves. Similar situation. That moved Wolves onto... Wolves were winning 3-1 at half-time, by the way. I watched some of that game. I was amazed that Brighton got back into it. Wolves, same points as Palace. Nuno Espirito Santo there, I think he's done a great job, and Wolves have done really well the last couple of seasons. Well, the 2 seasons, this is the 3rd season up in the Premier League. He's done a fantastic job. And although they're in 13th, and they've done better than that in recent seasons, as I've just said, like Palace, they're on the same points as Palace. A quick glance at the table, and you might think, oh, Wolves are not doing quite as well as they normally do. But again, as I say, same points as Palace, so they are also only 4 points outside the top 6. So I think positioning the table-wise for Wolves, it's not going quite as well as it normally does. But points-wise, it's probably okay. It really is. A couple of wins can soon turn that into 7th, 8th place or something like that, which is where they would expect to be. Brighton, on the other hand, 3 points above Fulham. Fulham are 3rd bottom, so Brighton are 3 points outside the relegation zone, and they're doing it the opposite way to Leeds. They've drawn 4 of the last 5 games, so they are inching themselves out of trouble. Of course, Leeds are doing a lot better. Leeds are on 23 points, but Brighton are inching the way away from it. They are 3 points above the relegation zone. They've drawn 4 of the last 5 games. But Fulham, who are 3rd bottom, have got 2 games in hand on Brighton. I always say this though, when you look at the teams challenging for Europe or challenging for the title, games in hand can work out to be more valuable for them. The teams at the top are more likely to win those games in hand. Games in hand to teams at the bottom might not work out to be worth anything whatsoever. So I think if I was in that situation, although 2 wins would equate to 6 points for Fulham, Brighton are 3 points behind them. Fulham have got 2 games in hand. If I was one of those 2 teams, I would sooner be in Brighton's position than Fulham's position. The points on the board are more valuable, I think, than the 2 games in hand. You never know. Fulham could go and win one and draw one of those 2 games. But still, if I was offered it, I'd sooner be in Brighton's position than Fulham's position. Fulham's game with Burnley has been cancelled because of the COVID, the positive COVID tests that the Fulham squad have had. That game would have been, obviously, a game today would have chalked off one of the games in hand they've got against Brighton, but that's not going to happen today. So they're going to remain after this weekend's football 3 points behind Brighton with 2 games in hand on them. A little bit concerned that they've had 2 games postponed. I know Newcastle had a game postponed because Fulham's game with Spurs was postponed earlier on in the week, and now it's been postponed against Burnley today. A little bit concerned about that. That's club having two games postponed. City are playing Chelsea today. There's no news about that one. I think City have got 4 or 5 players missing through COVID, and that game's going ahead. They've obviously got bigger resources than Fulham. They've got a bigger squad than Fulham, and I do feel sorry for them. But I don't think it's going in the right way if you're allowing clubs to have games postponed. I was almost going to say willy-nilly. Obviously, it's not willy-nilly, it's serious. But I don't know what they've got youth squad-wise. I don't know how many players they've got that have got COVID and how many fit players they've got. Whether those players have been in close proximity with the other players and they don't really want them to play. But shouldn't that be the case with City as well? But City's game's on. So I don't really understand it all. But I am concerned that they've had 2 games. They're the first team to have 2 games postponed. Obviously, the further behind they fall with the fixtures, the tougher it is to fit these fixtures in. Obviously, Fulham, it's not their fault that some of their players have got COVID, but they might end up with a fixture in another week or two against another team that have to postpone that game. Before you know it, Fulham could be 4 or 5 fixtures. You know, it could so easily happen. So it's vitally important that these games get played as quickly as possible, because the fixture list could be in a right mess before you know it. So I'm concerned about that. As far as I know, I think Newcastle have had the one game that they got postponed, which was against City. Or was it against City? No, Newcastle got a game postponed earlier than that, and then City got a game postponed earlier this week. So just Newcastle once, City once, and now Fulham twice. So I'm a touch concerned about that. Also yesterday, West Brom 0, Arsenal 4. Can't believe what's happening at West Brom since they've sacked Slaven Bilic and put Big Sam in charge. They've got beat at home 3-0, 4-0 and 5-0. It's made me wonder whether they've had a worse run of results at home. I've no doubt they've plenty of times in their history lost 3 times in a row, but by an average of 4-0 3 times in a row in 3 home games, I wouldn't mind betting it's the worst run of form ever in West Brom's whole history. So that's not, if that is the case, it's not particularly it's not looking particularly good sacking Slaven Bilic and putting Big Sam in charge. Although astonishingly, amongst those 3 heavy home defeats, they've got a 1-1 draw at Anfield. So how that works out is beyond me. It's a fantastic game football, isn't it? You'd expect some, the way, if you just looked at those results, 3-0, 4-0 and 5-0 in 3 home games, you'd expect Liverpool to put 6 past them. But they've gone there and got a 1-1 draw, and obviously we're all over the moon with that, so that's great. Arsenal, you see Arsenal, fascinating as well. They looked brilliant when he first took over. Arteta, they were going great guns. Obviously, they won the cup. A lot of people have said they had an easy start to the season, but they started the season where they left off last season, winning games. Suddenly, it went downhill, and they were shocking, didn't they? I think they had 8 games on the bounce, domestic games, league and cup games, where they didn't win a game in 8. An astonishing run for a club like Arsenal. But now suddenly they've won 3 games on the bounce. 4-0 away at West Brom, I think 1-0 away at Brighton, and they beat Chelsea. So that's a good win, beating Chelsea. So they've won 3 games on the bounce suddenly. So are Arsenal just coming back? We're due to play Arsenal at the end of this month. Just our luck, it wouldn't surprise me one little bit if Arsenal go on a great run now, and we might be playing Arsenal at the end of the month. I don't know how many games they've got this month, but it might well be the case that I can see it coming, that they're sort of unbeaten in 8 or something by the time we play them. They've got the young lad Smith Rowe, I can't think of his Christian name. Smith Rowe, he looks an exciting prospect for Arsenal from what I saw yesterday. I did watch quite a bit of that game. That's that from yesterday. Today we've got Newcastle v Leicester at 2:15 on Sky, and we've got Chelsea v Man City at 4:30 on Sky. I'm sure a lot of United fans, I have a different outlook. I'm sure a lot of people have gathered that when I talk about some of the players that I like or don't like. But I have a different outlook on football to a lot of people, and I'm sure, like for example, Leicester, I think they're 4 points behind us at the minute. Chelsea and City, obviously, I think people would probably want Chelsea to win that if you're a United fan, to try and keep City further behind us. I want United to have as much chance as possible of winning this Premier League title. I didn't think I'd even be saying that come the turn of the new year or come Christmas time. Pre-season, I would never ever have thought we had a chance whatsoever of winning the Premier League title. So before a ball was kicked, if people asked me that, which I would probably ask it on numerous times on the United stand on a Sunday night, could we have a chance of winning the title? And my answer always was, we would need Liverpool and City not to hit the numbers points wise that they've been hitting for the last 2 seasons. 100 points, I think, one season City, two seasons in a row over 90 points Liverpool. So my answer has always been, if those 2 teams are going to hit the heights that they have been doing in recent years, then we've got no chance. It looks at the moment as though they're not going to hit those heights. I would think 85 points, which under normal circumstances it's often enough to win the title. And I've said this, as I say, since before the ball was kicked. I think United have got a squad and a team good enough to reach 85 points. For us to get around 85 points and to have a chance of winning the title, we need Liverpool and City, obviously, to only get around that figure also, at the most, obviously. Now then, it's my belief that the tighter it is, the more chance we've got. And the more teams that have got a chance of qualifying for Europe or even fighting for the title, the more teams that have got a chance of, I know they've got a chance of taking points off us, it's just my theory. I know those teams will be confident and have a chance to take it, but we need it to be tight. We need teams to be capable of taking points off City, taking points off Liverpool, and we need teams to be playing those two teams and not feeling too inferior, not feeling as though we haven't got a chance before the ball's kicked. We need teams going into games against those teams confident and giving them a right game. When I look at the table, I think West Ham are in 10th. Even West Ham are only, I think, 3 points outside the top 6. The more teams that are playing confidently, who think they've got a chance of qualifying for Europe or better, maybe even the Champions League, you know, the teams as low as 8th might be thinking we could still get in the Champions League. We need these teams when they play Liverpool. I know they'll be like that when they play United. I appreciate that. We've got to put our own house in order. We've got to get to 85 points. But we need other teams, basically, to help us. We need other teams to take points off Liverpool, take points off City, because if they get over 90 odd points, I don't think we'll be competing for the Premier League. So when I see Leicester are playing today, for example, and they can, I think Leicester are playing, Leicester are playing Newcastle. Lots of United fans might be thinking, oh, we don't want Leicester to win. I'm not concerning myself with top 4 at the minute. I worry about that later in the season if we slip out of this race. I worry about that then. If Leicester win today, they move to within a point of us and they move to within a point of Liverpool. I don't know when they played. We've just played Leicester, so they probably play Liverpool again before they play us. I want Leicester to be as close as possible to Liverpool next time they play them. That's my theory. So I won't be watching that Newcastle Leicester game today, hoping for Leicester to drop points. I want it to be as tight as possible, so that whenever our direct opponents play each other, they've got a serious game on their hands and a serious chance of dropping points. That's how I look at it. Even the likes of Chelsea and Spurs, by the way, I'm not looking at them and hoping for them to drop points. Obviously, sometimes these clubs play each other. Chelsea are playing City today; they can't both win. You know, so obviously there's games when they play each other. But generally speaking, all the teams that have got a genuine chance of beating our direct rivals, I want them to be high up there and have a confidence about themselves when they play Liverpool or City, that is. For example, just as what I'm leading to next, tomorrow it's Southampton versus Liverpool. Southampton, I've just said, I think they're 9th or 10th in the table. They're only about 4 points outside the top 6. I would think Southampton will be going into that game more confident than they would be if they were 10 points adrift of the top 4 rather than 4 or 5 points adrift of the top 4 or 5. So yeah, that could be a right hard game for Liverpool tomorrow. Fingers crossed. That's that on the Premier League. Tomorrow. So today we've got Newcastle, Leicester, we've got Chelsea, City. Tomorrow you got Southampton and Liverpool. Tuesday night, Carabao Cup starts, semi-finals. Brentford versus Spurs on Tuesday night, and United v City on Wednesday night at 7:45. Can't wait for that one. I can't wait to start with what Ollie's going to do. I'm really fascinated by it. He said last season, Ollie, I think he's repeated it this season, that he's used it as like a string to his bow, if you like, that we reached 3 semi-finals. I don't think reaching semi-finals is good enough for Man United, and I wouldn't be mentioning it myself that we just reached semi-finals. I want us to win things, and I would just about mention it if we were reaching finals and losing them. I would do. Particularly not like Spurs, for example, reached the Champions League final the other year, and they should be proud that they actually reached that final. That's a massive cup. But last season we reached the semi-final of the Europa League, the semi-final of the FA Cup, the semi-final of the League Cup. For me to mention those cups, we need to be in the final. I'll accept it if we get beat in the finals, but not getting beat in the semi-finals and then putting it forward as a string to my bow, we reached 3 semi-finals. So, Ollie has used that, and he's also been quoted very recently as saying that he's desperate to win a trophy, any trophy. So, what I'm leading to here, this semi-final on Wednesday night, I'm absolutely certain that Ollie is going to be just as determined to get through as he is in any league game. Some people might come in the comments and say, no, the Premier League, we need 3 points. I understand all that, but think about it. He bangs on about 3 semis, being in 3 semis. We're now in a 4th semi. How's he going to feel if he's now got to say, we've been in 4 semis in the last 12 months and we've lost 4 semis? How's he going to feel about that? He's also saying he wants to win a trophy, any trophy. Believe me, he's absolutely desperate to get through that game just as much as he was desperate to beat Aston Villa or Wolves last week. Now, it is the sort of game where you would expect maybe the likes of Juan Mata to get a game, maybe Van der Beek to get a game. I'll be fascinated to see if he does do that. Really, really amazing situation. Whether he makes changes, he will make some changes, but will he make enough changes that people who hardly ever get a game? Because Van der Beek, really speaking, hardly ever gets a game. Juan Mata hardly ever gets a game. By putting in Dan James or Mason Greenwood, that's not really what I regard as a real change, because sometimes Greenwood plays anyway. Sometimes recently Dan James plays anyway. So it'll be interesting to see if some of the players who rarely start actually get a game in that match. Fascinating. So that's on Wednesday night, United's next match, followed at the weekend by Watford in the FA Cup, and then it's the big week after that, Burnley and Liverpool in the league. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you have, please tell all your friends, please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone, keep stum.